Hey guys, welcome to Mike's Guitar Room. I just wanted to talk about some tips that I have learned over the years when buying electric guitars. Maybe you're someone that's in the market for your first guitar. Maybe you're on your second or third guitar. I just wanted to give you some tips that I have learned. I am not a professional musician, but I have played for quite a few years. Played at my local church, acoustic and electric. So I have a little bit of knowledge of what to look for, what not to look for, things I wish I would have known when I purchased different guitars over the years. I guess my first tip number one, is don't feel like you have to spend tons of money, especially if it's your first guitar. You could go out there and buy a Fender American Professional for $1,500 to $2,000, and I don't know, I'm just like, you know what, don't do that, because number one, I can't tell you how many times I bought something, played it for a while, just to realize I want to try something else. And when you buy a guitar brand new and try and sell it used, you will pretty much always lose money. So if you're someone that can afford it and budget isn't an issue for you, by all means, go for it. Get that American Professional. Get that, really nice guitar that you're dreaming of. But for most people that have a budget, I would say, don't feel like you got to spend tons of money. Another thing I would suggest as well is try a used guitar. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with getting a used guitar. You save some money. You can find some really nice used guitars, that are barely people buy guitars all the time. They think they're going to, start learning, and they buy this new guitar, and they play it a couple times, it sits for a month or two, and then they decide to sell it. You can find really good, nice used guitars. You save yourself, $100 here, maybe even more. Another tip that I found as well is buy blemish stock. So, when they're being made in the factory somewhere, these manufacturers, through the manufacturing process, there's issues. There might be some dings, or there might be a small finish crack here or there. There might be some small issues, and they can't sell that as new, so they put it off as blemish stock, and they'll send it out to retailers, and retailers will resell these guitars at what's called B stock or blemish stock. I've bought blemish stock guitars and saved a lot of money actually on some guitars, so that's another great way to save some money. You can find stuff on Reverb, blemish stock. You can find stuff on Sweetwater. For example, this white Fender Aerodyne Strat that I have that you're seeing in the video, it retails right now at Guitar Center. It's $1,000. I was able to get it blemish stock. There's a few imperfections on it. I was able to get it for $625. So there you can see the savings with used or blemish stock. Also, the ABBYNOISE RG that you see in the video as well. I think they retail for about $375. I got this blemish stock for about $250. So there are deals out there, especially if it's your first guitar. My second tip would be find a local guitar shop and try as many guitars as you can before you make a purchase. I've done the whole sight unseen thing where I find something online. I'm like, oh man, that's so sweet, and that's such an awesome looking guitar. Oh, it's a great deal. I'm always a sucker for a good deal. And then, I order it and it comes, and I'm like, this, I'm not as happy with it as I thought I would be. And then I end up selling it and losing a little bit money on it. So try to find a local guitar shop and just try as many guitars as you can. Tip number 3 is the weight of the guitar. Not many people talk about this, and the reason I talk about this is because I've definitely had some lower back pain issues, more so in the past. It's definitely better now, but I guess it depends on what application. What are you going to be doing with the guitar? Are you just going to be sitting at home? Is it going to be sitting on your lap and you're just going to be playing it? Or are you going to be playing it out at a venue? Are you going to be playing it live? Are you going to be playing it at church? Are you going to be standing for an hour? Are you going to be standing for 2 hours? Those are things to think about with the weight of the guitar. You know what I mean? I like guitars that are, 7 pounds, maybe a little bit lighter than that. I think the Fender Aerodyne is a little bit over, I think it might be 7 pounds, 4 ounces, something like that. But, I don't want an 8, 9, 10 pound guitar because, when I'm practicing at church or I'm playing at church, I don't want to be I don't have the best back, so I can't be holding up a 9-10 pound Les Paul, for that period of time. So that's just something to think about. Maybe you don't have back problems, and maybe the weight of the guitar it's not an issue for you, and that's great. I'm speaking to somebody that maybe has some back issues, or they have some issues standing for a long time with a guitar strapped over them, and just something to think about. Think about the weight of the guitar. All right, so tip number 4 is the neck thickness, the guitar neck thickness and fretboard radius. Myself, I have small to medium hands, so I prefer a little slimmer guitar neck. I prefer a little flatter radius on the fretboard, and that's just me. People with a little bit bigger hands, they might want a more chunkier style Fender Stratocaster, whereas an Ibanez guitar is going to have more of a flatter fretboard, a slimmer neck. It just kind of depends. A lot of different guitars cater to different genres of music, but also to different playing styles as well. So an Ibanez is going to be a little flatter fretboard radius for a little faster playing up and down the neck, whereas your classic Fender Strat with maybe a 7.5, 9.5-inch radius, is going to be thicker, it's going to be chunkier, but, for some people, they find that comfortable, and that's okay. That's the great thing about guitars. There's so many different styles of guitars. There's so many, different things to check out, and that's why I would encourage you to try guitars before you just, especially if it's your first guitar. Don't just find something online and hit the buy button, because you're probably going to end up selling it. It's happened to me many times. All right, that brings us down now to tip number 5. Okay, so the big age-old question: single coil pickups or humbuckers? And I'm not here to argue about this. I think I might make another video just on this specific topic. But yes, there's many people that they're just diehard single coil fans, and they just love the sound, the clarity, the cleanness, the crispness of single coils, and they do sound great. But they can be a little thin sounding, and they're noisy. You know what I mean, with the 60 cycle hum. So obviously if you're playing live or whatever, you're probably going to need a noise gate or something, which most guitar pedals have. So that's not a big deal anymore. You can get noise gate pedals for cheap, but noise gate pedals can tend to squash your sound a little bit. But anyways, I'm getting way too far ahead. So single coils or humbuckers, just for simplicity. Single coils are going to be a little bit cleaner sounding, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more chimier, whereas humbuckers are going to sound a little bit more, I hate to say muddy, but you can get more gain out of them. You can get a little bit more grunt and growl out of humbuckers. But you know what? Seriously, with all the technology and the pedals and the modelers out there, you can really dial in single coils or humbuckers to sound, pretty close to what you want. Now, of course, I'm not a professional musician. I'm sure there's people out there that are probably going to blow up the comments section and say, well, that's not true. But in my experience and with the guitars that I've used and the pedal that I've used, I've been able to, kind of dial in humbuckers or single coils. Humbuckers are just kind of nice because they're not as noisy. So if you're playing in a live setting and there's tons of lights and tons of other instruments around you, they don't tend to pick up as much interference as the single coils. However, there are single coils that Fender makes that are noiseless single coils, and that's a whole nother story. You don't have to worry about that. But I would say, again, it's what is your application? Is this something you're just sitting at home playing? Is it something you're going to play live? Something you're going to play at a venue, at a church? Is it, think about what your goal is. What you plan to do with this guitar. But honestly, for your first guitar, if you're just playing it at home, you're just plugging it into an amp or through a pedal or a modeler, or I think either one's fine, single coils or humbuckers. Probably what's going to end up happening, you'll probably buy a single coil guitar and then you'll buy a humbucker guitar, and there are some differences, and you'll kind of experiment with that. But I don't think one or the other is necessarily better. They do different things, but I still think they both sound really good. So I don't think you can go wrong with single coil or humbuckers, but just research the difference a little bit. Like I said, I think I'm going to make another video about that. So anyways, I'm getting a little long-winded here, so let me come down to tip number 6, and that's what type of bridge do you want? Okay, do you want the Stratocaster? Do you want the tremolo bridge? Do you want to be using the whammy bar and doing dive bombs? Because honestly, if you're not going to be doing that, it's funny. I have this, this nice white Fender Aerodyne Strat, but I never use the whammy bar. I don't. I just don't. It's just not my style of playing. Honestly, I prefer a fixed bridge. I think fixed bridges just stay in tune better. I think fixed bridges have more sustain. I think they sound better. And of course, this is just my opinion. Someone might differ with that opinion, and that's okay. Yeah, I just prefer fixed bridges. Now, I would say with the Aerodyne Strat, that's got the tremolo setup, but it has locking tuners on it, and I will say that I've been pretty impressed by those locking tuners. They really help it to stay in tune. Now, of course, I'm not using the tremolo, so if I'm heavy on the whammy bar, I don't know how it'll stay in tune because I never tried it. But yeah, for me, I prefer fixed bridges. But if you want to use a whammy bar, then you're going to want to go with a Stratocaster style tremolo. Gretsch guitars have the Bigsby. There's all kinds of different vibrato setups on these guitars that you can do some cool stuff. But yeah, so that's something to think about too. The style bridge, it's funny. I remember the one guitar I bought. It was an Ibanez. It was an RG series, and it had a this locking tremolo system, and I had no clue. I was still learning and pretty new, and I was all excited. It was like this gunmetal gray color. I was like, man, this thing is so cool. Basically bought it because it looked cool, and that can get you in trouble sometimes. And I got it home, and after playing it for a while, it's got this the Floyd Rose locking tremolo system, and the first time I went to change strings, I'm like, what in the world? How do I even do this? And I was like, this is ridiculous. And because I didn't use the tremolo system, the locking tremolo, for what it was used for. It was like, so it was kind of pointless for me to buy a guitar with that type of bridge. So yeah, just think about what type of bridge the guitar has, and do a little bit of research on that and what you think you're going to use for it. So yeah, those are basically my 6 tips that I would give to anyone who's in the market for their first guitar, their second guitar, or even their third guitar, because I've bought and sold a decent amount of guitars. I've had Schecter guitars, I've had G&L guitars, and got Fender, Ibanez, and it's, I don't know. I love guitars. Guitars are just awesome, and they're fun just to like play and try out. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing what I do, buying and selling, because you always lose money. Even though I try and find stuff that's used or blemished stock, I still lose a little bit of money on it. So not the smartest thing to do. So the best thing to do is go to your local guitar shop and just try as many as you can, and find the one that fits you. And yeah, hopefully this video helps somebody. Hopefully you can find that guitar you want. But I would say this for first time guitar buyers: do not just purchase something off the internet that you think looks cool, because most times you're gonna end up selling it and getting it something different, because I've done it many times. So yeah, best thing to do is pick it up and try it. Alright guys, you have a great day, and thank you for checking out my channel. If you like this video, just hit that like button and subscribe if you want to. Hopefully I can get another video to dive a little deeper into these single coils versus humbuckers and the advantages and disadvantages. Alright, you guys take care, and hopefully see you on the flip side.